Welcome to 100 Days and Beyond. I'm Dudley Peacock, and this is day 5, the last episode of our first week. All week, we've been building towards something. On Monday, I introduced the two-phase model. Tuesday, we walked through the real timeline of an implementation. Wednesday, we talked about what happens on day 101. Yesterday, we looked at the 10-year trajectory, the compounding value of a system over a decade. But there's a question I haven't answered yet. And it's the one that every CFO, every managing director, every board member asks. How do I know if this is actually working? Here's the problem. Most businesses measure the wrong things at the wrong time. They look at go live and ask, did we hit the deadline? Did we stay on budget? Did the system go live without a catastrophe? Those are project metrics. They tell you whether the implementation was managed well. They tell you absolutely nothing about whether the transformation is working. Today, I'm going to give you a practical framework for measuring real success, not at go live, but over the 12 months that follow it. This is the tool that separates the businesses that get lasting value from the ones that spend 6 figures and end up back in spreadsheets. Let me walk you through it. Let me tell you what happens in most organizations on go live day. There is a checklist. Can users log in? Are transactions processing? Is the data migrated correctly? Are the integrations firing? If the answer to all of those is yes, someone writes a report that says the implementation was successful and the project team moves on. I have seen this dozens of times. I've been in the room when the project manager sends the email, go live complete, all critical processes operational, project delivered on time and on budget. Everyone celebrates. The vendor sends an invoice. The internal team gets a pat on the back. And then 3 months later, the finance team is still running parallel processes in Excel because they don't trust the new system's numbers. The warehouse team has found a workaround that bypasses the inventory module entirely because it's easier. The sales team is entering orders into the CRM, but still tracking their pipeline on a whiteboard because the dashboards don't show what they need. The go live was successful. The transformation was not. This is the danger of measuring too early. When you judge a system at go live, you are measuring the implementation team, not the business outcome. You are asking whether the technology was installed correctly. You are not asking whether it is actually changing the way the business operates. And here's where it gets genuinely dangerous. I had a client a few years back, a distribution company running Odoo. They measured at go live plus 60 days. Productivity was down. Error rates were up. The finance director walked into a board meeting and recommended scrapping the system and going back to the old one. They would have killed a project that, had they given it another 90 days, would have delivered exactly what they needed. Fortunately, the MD pushed back. They gave it time. By month 6, every metric that was negative at day 60 had reversed. By month 12, they had saved over 400,000 Rand in operational costs. If they had measured at the wrong time, they would have pulled the plug on a system that was about to become their biggest competitive advantage. So here is what I use instead. I call it the 12-month success framework, and it breaks the post-go live period into 4 distinct phases, each with its own set of metrics. The key insight is this: different metrics matter at different times. Measuring ROI at month 2 is as meaningless as measuring adoption at month 10. You have to know what to look for and when. Phase 1 is months 1 through 3, the adoption phase. These are the first 12 weeks after go live, and the only thing that matters is whether people are actually using the system. The metrics here are straightforward. Daily active users. How many people are logging in and doing real work, not just checking if the system is still there. Feature utilization. Which modules and functions are being used, and which ones are collecting dust. Support ticket trends. These should be high at first and declining steadily. If support tickets are flat or rising after week 6, you have an adoption problem, not a software problem. And process compliance, are people following the new workflows, or have they built workarounds that bypass the system entirely. Phase 2 is months 4 through 6, the efficiency phase. By now, the team knows the system. The question shifts from are they using it to is it making them faster? The metrics here are about time. Time to close the monthly books, time to generate a sales report, time to process a purchase order from requisition to receipt. Count the manual steps. How many copy, paste, export, import processes still exist? Every manual handoff is a failure of the implementation to automate what it was supposed to automate. If your finance team is still spending 2 hours reformatting data into a spreadsheet every week, that is a measurable inefficiency with a measurable cost. Phase 3 is months 7 through 9, the growth phase. This is where you start seeing things the business could not do before, new capabilities unlocked. Maybe your sales team can now see real-time stock availability when quoting a customer, something that was impossible with the old system. Departments that weren't part of the original scope start requesting access. Processes that were never on the requirements list become possible because the data is now clean, centralized, and accessible. This is the compounding effect I talked about on day 4. The system starts creating value that nobody planned for. Phase 4 is months 10 through 12, the ROI phase. Now and only now do you measure return on investment, total cost savings versus the investment, and be honest about both sides. Revenue growth that is directly attributable to the system, not just revenue growth that happened to coincide with it. FTE equivalents saved, not necessarily headcount reductions, but capacity freed up. If your accounts payable clerk went from spending 4 hours a day on data entry to 45 minutes, you didn't fire anyone, but you freed up 3 hours a day of human capacity for higher value work. That has a calculable value. Let me make this concrete. 2 years ago, we implemented Sage X3 for a client in the building materials sector. Medium-sized business, about 120 employees, running an outdated system that was essentially a glorified spreadsheet with a database behind it. Months 1 through 3, the adoption phase. Go live was rocky, it always is. For the first 2 weeks, the support ticket volume was high. The procurement team, in particular, was struggling with the new approval workflows. We tracked daily logins and saw that the warehouse module had an 85% adoption rate by week 4, but the financial reporting module was sitting at barely 50%. The finance team was still running their old reports in parallel, so we focused our hypercare effort there. We sat with the finance manager for 3 half-day sessions, rebuilt 2 reports to match exactly what she was used to seeing, and by week 10, financial module adoption was at 90%. Support tickets were down 60% from the peak. Months 4 through 6, the efficiency phase. This is where things got interesting. Month-end close went from 8 working days to 4. Purchase order processing time dropped by 40% because the approval workflow, the one that caused all the pain in month 1, was now running smoothly and eliminated 3 layers of email-based approvals. The warehouse team who had adopted fastest was now doing real-time stock counts instead of the quarterly manual counts they used to dread. The operations manager told me they had eliminated what he estimated to be 15 hours per week of manual data re-entry across the team. Months 7 through 9, the growth phase. The sales team, who were not part of the original implementation scope, asked if they could get live access to stock levels and pricing directly from X3 when preparing quotes. We built that integration in 2 weeks. It cut their quote turnaround time from 2 days to same day. The MD started using the business intelligence dashboards to make decisions that previously required a week of data gathering. The HR department asked if they could tie leave management into the system. None of this was in the original requirements. The system was creating demand for itself. Months 10 through 12, the ROI phase. The numbers told the story. Total project investment, including software, implementation, training, and 12 months of support, roughly 2.4 million rand. Documented annual savings from process automation, reduced overtime, eliminated manual processes, and faster reporting, just over 1.8 million rand per year. That is a payback period of roughly 16 months. But here is the critical point. But if you had measured at month 3, you would have seen a struggling team, a high support burden, and zero efficiency gains. The ROI was invisible at go live. It only became measurable at month 10. I have already talked about the danger of measuring too early. You will kill good projects because they haven't had time to compound. But there is an equal and opposite danger that I see just as often, not measuring at all. When nobody tracks post-go live metrics, bad systems survive. I have walked into businesses that have been running a system for 3 years and have no idea whether it's delivering value. They assume it is because it's there and people are using it. But using a system and getting value from a system are two very different things. I've seen teams that log into their ERP every day and then immediately export the data into Excel to do their actual work. That system is being used. It is not delivering value. It is, in fact, adding an unnecessary step. Without measurement, you cannot course correct. You cannot identify modules that need more training. You cannot spot workarounds that indicate a configuration problem. You cannot prove to the board that the investment was justified, and you cannot make the case for the next phase of investment. So here is what I recommend. At GoLive, agree on your 12-month success framework. Define the specific metrics for each phase. Assign someone, not the IT team, not the vendor, someone internal with operational authority, to own the measurement process. Schedule quarterly reviews where you look at the metrics that are relevant to that phase, not ROI at month 2, not adoption at month 10, the right metrics at the right time. And here's the key message I want you to take from today, from this entire first week. The go live is not the finish line. It is the starting gun. The race, the transformation plays out over 12 months, over 3 years, over the full decade we talked about yesterday. Measure what matters when it matters, and you will see the compounding value that most businesses miss because they stopped looking too early. That's day 5 of 100 days and beyond. And it wraps up our first week together. Let me recap where we've been. On Monday, we established that every transformation has 2 phases, the build and the beyond. On Tuesday, we got honest about what really happens in those first 100 days. On Wednesday, we talked about day 101, the moment the beyond phase begins. On Thursday, we zoomed out to the 10-year trajectory and the compounding effect of systems over time. And today, we tied it all together with a practical framework for measuring success, not at go live, but over the 12 months that follow. Next week, we are diving into the specific systems, ERP, CRM, and AI, and how each one follows the same 2-phase transformation model. We'll get into the details that matter when you're choosing, implementing, and growing with each of these technologies. If this first week was useful, subscribe wherever you're listening, share it with someone who's about to start an implementation, and I'll see you on Monday. Thanks for watching.